Welcome to the lovely HP community and 5D collective. And anyone who's new, we are going to begin with personal and spiritual growth lady right here for mindfulness, mindset practices, skills, and anything that a person who is a whole self can use. The ones who need first Patrick Tiahan, that's a whole different story. And this one is going to be a bit of storytelling. My lovely story with God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, and we began to talk a little bit about this in the short. So you can't break, shake, or fool the unbreakable souls of those of us who don't play God, and we do love in integrity what Jesus, Holy Spirit, and God in my catechism taught me. Not what those people in cloaks, who, by the way, don't really enjoy Akashic record readers, Reiki masters, tarot oracle card readers, any one of us who can also be called a healer by the community of those who also don't take seriously those sciences. Because see, we don't heal people even though we heal trauma, but it's one person at a time, meaning I get to walk a walk and talk a talk with my 2 hands, 2 feet, and a intact soul or spirit. Or if you're not a believer, because I integrate again with those who are not spiritual, their journey of mastery is one of personal mastery. So mindfulness, mindset practices help a smart human being who wants to be emotionally, mentally, and physically with integrity. Okay, great. So that's also why you don't fool us, because the 7 to 14 charming, that's Michael Stone's evil scale. Yes, they don't end up in prison, and the only ones who fall for them are the same human beings who are non-bilaterally, all of them. None are excluded. This is how Maria's sharing with you from my attachment trauma education. All of the people, let me go and actually use a quote that will help you understand, humanly speaking, what I'm talking about. I know my body, my heart, my mind, and how I grew up. Okay, and I'll tell you my 3-year-old story, which I shared with Dr. Daniel Siegel. Which, by the way, I got his interpersonal neurobiology book. Also, a lovely other man, Dr. Daniel Fox, for borderline personality and any personality disorder, narcissism, all healable. He shares that. Other experts like to twist their words based on their own not healed childhood environments, and then they go on screen. So got a lot of voices out there. So interpersonal neurobiology, really great with Dr. Daniel Siegel, and more than just that course. And I shared with him the story that my mother shared with me, because I don't have that memory specifically. That one. I have another one and a couple more from my childhood. But anyways, let me go find the quote so we don't get lost. And again, I'm integrating the sciences, because sciences and spirituality, what I got taught by God and Jesus and Holy Spirit, we're all brothers and sisters, and there's a soul in every one of you. But again, not everybody believes in God, so I respect that. It's called respecting differences, also because you don't impose blind faith on anyone, which is also why when I heard a person of spirituality say that it's really easy to break a soul, I was like, no, wait. As a kid, because I have a story for you more, and that's also though based with the sciences. So bilaterally integrated brains are important for me to share with you, because it also means I know internally my body, my embodied brain is a nervous system. First thing you want to remember is Stephen Porges, who's still working behind the scenes to build quantitative data analysis. I'm the pseudoscience woo-woo lady, okay? So those of us of true faith, we're okay with sciences giving us the proof that we already had been given by God, which Pacha in The Emperor's New Groove knows, is everybody has a heart. No one's heartless. In fact, it's only brokenhearted from the shame defectiveness of a not securely attached 0-1-year-old, 3 to 7-year-old, and there's a lot of different ways this stuff happens. None of our business. The therapists are on it, and the ones who will want to go and heal, EMDR, child parts work, somatics, and or sensory motor, they're different, but a good therapist will work with you and not label you. They won't pathologize you, and they won't tell you you're unhealable. Now, as Bessel van der Kolk points out in a recent short that he is chit-chatting, can take 20 years, but studies show healable. Yeah, with what? Oh, the willpower that you have to go and continue, which is also what Dr. Daniel Fox presents, is the people that leave sooner than they need. Well, yeah, they don't get into borderline with remission and heal and continue healing and feeling better. And we also have those who have not securely attached and say, I'm an avoidant. I'm going to say not securely attached because people are fucked up. So when you find those who are lazy, because cowards are lazy in my personal opinion, because they have the scientists who are proving how to heal up, but then again they got the fancy 7 to 14 charming telling them How dare they tell you that it is inherently healthy and enlightenment to be non-reactive? They're liars. They're making it dangerous because your emotions. So this is where I'm twisting stuff up, but there's a bunch of people who actually don't know how to be in their ventral energy, which means though also that they're comfortable and they're protective, not connecting. So remember, they won't want to be around us. Christ consciousness people, it's okay. They're not Lucifer though. They're all people that need Deb Dane and Stephen Porges, who can let them in on a fun fact. You're having what is called dysregulation activated when you meet those who have what your body should have had when it was born, but you didn't get it. So you're getting reactive when it comes to those who live a life of nervous system, ventral energy connection. It's so unfortunate that the fancy lady, in fact, doesn't like those of us who have positive experiences. And she does a recent short that made me laugh in my butthole because I'm like, wow, you're getting more and more upset at all this positivity. I can only imagine all the other bodies that are comfortable in the protection that you aren't comfortable in, because she wants that threat response, how much they're going to be really not fun in their hellhole. Is that self-loathing, gut wrench, and torn apart shit is in their body, not ours. Our body is in a ventral vagal energy. We're having a good time. A whole 3-year-old, you can't break a soul again, and or a self that is a whole 3-year-old. Has anybody ever met a 3-year-old that is not broken? It's right here. I'm right here. That's why I'm going to tell you my 3-year-old little story so you can understand, and that's why determined. Come on in, Robert Sapolsky. If for any reason there's no free will whatsoever, if for any reason, because again, I am a mystic and of faith, Christian, Catholic upbringing, Jesus, Holy Spirit, God telling me to mind my own business about 0-1-year-old and their human suffering and to not judge it, which I don't. In fact, discernment is the only thing I do because I don't have charges for those who lack the intelligence to go and get themselves healed. And I'm trying to be nice about this. And so, yeah, and also I got taught not to cast stones. And I learned I was doing that again as a teenager. I said, I'm so sorry. I feel really bad about this, God. I didn't mean to play you. And when you find the mystics who are playing God, they do things like this. My content is created in a way because that's how I'm going to activate your higher whatever. I'm like, wow, you actively think a person needs you to activate their own spiritual awakening. I think that's a bit spiritual ego bypasser going on right now, and you seem like you're upset at the comments that they gave you from YouTube, which also makes me think that you don't know how to disregard comments and feel satisfied with the work you're doing because you're confident in it. No, you have to make sure that they understand what value, which is that you can give them access to what is really not for you to decide, since you are not the bigger power, and no mystic is, and no spiritual mouth. That's why I don't play God. Again, I'm trying to explain to you all, when you're going to meet any human being who's spiritual, mystic, and with all our lovely clairs and in our holistic healing community, we respect the therapist and know their job is to help anyone who wants to heal. There's no Lucifer in the body of anybody because we have neuroscientists proving it. But also we understand about the health, mental health of people and the importance of it. Okay, so we don't basically say, oh, because scripture people are telling you that those people in decentralization is bad, you know, logical brains are also emotional brains, bilaterally integrated. So we don't feel bad. We are accepting that we might be rejected by those who lack the capacity to notice they're playing God as they play judgment. And that's like one of the number one things. You're not God. So anytime I'm seeing anyone, doesn't matter what they're reading to me or who said something from the medieval times, I'm like, yeah, you're breaking a very big rule, and I'm not a fooled one, because I'm a 3-year-old who got taught by my mother how to respect myself and respect others, and to remember that if any grown-up talks to me in a specific way, so I don't know how or when, but she made sure that you come tell me one, and remember, tone, manners, no hands, be respectful because I'm teaching you good manners, and remember that they don't have good manners. And when you get taught as a kid what good manners are, and that the grown-ups who don't respect those good manners are the ones who shout or do whatever bullshit in your face and they try to scare you, you're going to be a 3-year-old that says, And then as a 3-year-old, I told the same grown-up, that is my primary caregiver, you can't spank me. And when she was finished spanking me, this is my 3-year-old story, I went to make my suitcase. And when I shared the story with Dr. Daniel Siegel, he's like, wow, that was really great, Maria. You are already a differentiated self. Robert Sapolsky, determined, come on in. So I didn't read it yet, but he talks to you about how your first 3 years of life matter. And I know that too, because I'm learned in attachment trauma. So even if I didn't grow up with faith, even though I already shared we can't do that hypothetical because I did. And I do have blind faith, so much so that I feel in my bones. And the teenage boyfriend is the one who got me to understand that people who have no faith, well, again, I don't need to speak to them about my faith. And I also won't convince or force anybody to have faith in God because, again, I don't play God. So anybody who's running around thinking they have to convert people, it's like when people came to the door a number of times. I'm a Christian Catholic. Again, maybe one day because of me being a mystic, I might not be welcome. That's something I accept and respect. Meantime, though, when people from other denominations have tried to convert me, I'm like, look, I made a promise. I did catechism. I was aware of my promise as I am confirming. And they explained to me what this meant. No, but our baptism, like, I'm already baptized. I have all of it. This is my point. And then when Buddhists tried to convert me, I was like, okay, look, I enjoy being here with you all, but I don't want to be converted. No, but you don't understand. I'm like, no, I understand. I reiterate, I made a commitment and I like to keep my commitments, although I can take responsibility for the imperfection that I am. Okay, so this is what it means to love in integrity, not play God, also not give two shits about the erroneous thinking people, because it's erroneous to think of the Reiki as bad, yoga, meditation, because really you're going against spiritual people. It's just bad because if you are of spirituality and faith, you want us all to come together. You don't make it divisive just because you owned the ancient, whatever times of medieval. And when people think it's all conspiracy, again, I know who 3D 40 are. Their narratives are like, wow, I mean, gosh darn it. Some want to prove spirituality. I'm like, you don't realize that energy is invisible, right? So when someone says, I don't believe in Reiki, I'm like, I respect that. You haven't had the experience. And when they tease it, again, and then when there are those who actively notice that it's not magic, is not, bullshit, and then they, don't learn how to respect, but they learn healthy boundary lady here. So that's a whole other story that I'm integrating right now. Let me find that quote that I'm still waiting. You're all waiting. Where's the quote, Maria? Here it is. Okay, so what you find here in front of you is a non-traumatized person with a secure attachment has the capacity to regulate independently of relationships. Pat Ogden, thank you. So that's where I'm at, and that's because I'm an inner child adult who, by the age of 3, I'm telling my mom to respect my own body, and in fact, that's what continued to be. And by the time I'm an adolescent, I'm learning all about the unkind adolescent world and betrayal and all this stuff that people still as grown-ups seem to have a hard time processing mindfully and or spiritually. Meaning they judge, they build charges, and they create groups versus discern, which I was explaining. I also am not fancy on having to create these divisive things with words, but I understood the explanation. So I'm just going to let you know it's the charge part that matters, not the words. But the way it was explained made sense. So I'm using the same, and I'm not naming who explained it, and I'm giving you the gist of it. So I don't judge because I don't get charged. I don't get angry because I don't have Bezel Vanderkolk. People who get angry, who are angry, they want redress. They want people to take them seriously. So we need to go where the anger comes from. And we need to help them find some resolution for their anger. You see, I don't have this problem because when I was 3 and as I kept growing up, my lovely little angry circuit got to be all over the place. My mother gets my angry tone and my twin, and she taught me and I taught myself in time how to dial it back because, it was really unnecessary. But the point is I got a child-centric environment. So the only person who gets the angry tone is the so-called primary caregiver, who eventually said, I should have spanked you more. I said, well, too bad, so sad. It's too late now. And so she made an unbreakable soul or an unbreakable self because she didn't realize. No, she did realize. It's the whole point. She's happy that I can self-regulate all by myself. She's happy that I can stand up as a self-empowered feminine and woman because she's also a woman. So when we're arguing and discussing, it's really just, but again, she created this. No, my body participated because as Stephen Porges points out, and Gabor Mate, and a lot more smart human beings, it's the nervous system that decides. Oh, and there's a lady, her name is Lisa. Let me go grab her little quote because that's the part. Mindset is everything. That's how we begin IHP with the inner growth mindset. Yeah, so it's all about how you think. Because you're the one translating shit. And that Zen master who has laundry, he's chosen to call it laundry every time he gets sad instead of, go and do more therapy or something. Because apparently he doesn't know how to, one, notice, here's Kristen Lindquist, that powerful emotions can feel like irrefutable facts. Yeah, the last time that happened, I was 8, but that they're not. And that's called effective realism. So, people that understand how to use two sides of their brain are the ones who are of a 5D collective, or the ones who get that two sides, and then also vertical integration, and that's because they care to get their well-being and to actually access intelligence. Because it's fun to access your physical, mental, and emotional intelligence. Also, to not be somebody who falls for the 7 and 14 charming, who really come out with the most bullshit of words. I mean, you can't pull the wool over the eyes of a smart 3-year-old who's a grown-up. I'm an inner child adult, and that's why I said I didn't break, because my mother let me be all angry and pissy. And when I went to go make my suitcase, she didn't spank me. She probably laughed, and I didn't get to go away. And I have a story. My twin, while I'm making my suitcase, goes up to my mother and hugs her and says, "Mommy, I will never leave you," which shows you her personality patterns and temperaments, which differ than mine, which also is something that the smart scientists explain, because siblings will have, typically, one will be more sympathetic, the other this dorsal vagal. And this is the way it was explained to me by a smart therapist. But don't quote me, because again, I'm a pseudoscience lady. But I learned from these smart people, so I can go grab the course, remember which one it is, and the man who told me this, and I'm like, yep, that makes sense, that two bodies would have the different energy. Oh, and Gabor Mate says every parent will behave differently with the child, every child, because the child will be doing different types of, we trigger each other, technically. I mean, really, it's not trigger per se if you are from a Neapolitan household where we get to yell at each other and not feel like, oh my God, you just offended me, and we just keep on doing it. But it's not with a tone of the sympathetic. That's culture. That's why I know when Americans try to pretend to, Americans that immerse themselves in the culture learn. What I'm talking about is when I see commercials from Americans, marketers who make videos. I watched one. I'm like, nope, you're doing it wrong. I can totally tell that you're yelling for real, meaning in your sympathetic, and it's not part of a passionate debate, because I've seen friends in passionate debates as they're insulting each other, but they're not. They're married to this day, happy as can be. And I'll never forget the first time I was in the presence of a date with them, because we were 4, two, the couple. Anyways, there's some of my oldest friends, and so I told my boyfriend at the time, I was like, don't you dare talk to me like that. I'm going to beat you up. No, I didn't say that. I just said, don't you dare talk to me like that. And then I was like, are they going to last? Because it looks like they're insulting each other right now. But they did. They're lasting really great, and that's part of their story. They're fun. But yeah, there's a whole way that you'll notice tone when you are an empowered human being. And I'm not finding the frickin' quote. Where are you, Lisa? I know you're here somewhere. Hold on. Let me pause my mouth. So that, see, multitasking. Somebody told me once you can't do it. I was like, yes, I can. And then it's like, nope, you're right, I can't. So here, I found it. The brain is running a model of its body. Lisa Feldman Barrett, I have her book, is really good. The brain uses past experiences to decipher what it senses. For example, you hear the wind, it might sound like a gunshot, okay? And it is crafting or creating a category of instances from the past which are similar in some way to the present. And in order to predict what the brain needs to do next and what your experience will be next, based on function of things, social reality, impose a so anyways, this is the part of why smart human beings are going to own their sense of self versus just chit chat about these words. I bring it all together because I like a consilience approach. And again, I'm here for the ones who are ready to integrate mindfulness, mindset practices, so to do more personal growth and spiritual growth, which is also why, as I told you yesterday, when we have clairs, the ones of us who are true to our faith and or to our spiritual journey, we don't have it go to our head, which is why we're empowered feminines and we're inner securely attached 3-year-olds. And as a teenager, when I'm meeting all the betrayal people, all I said to God by the time I'm 19 is, I don't see Lucifer. I saw cowards. I still see them. As I got older, I saw more of them. Liars. I don't see anything called Lucifer. If I ever meet the monster, I'll let you know. In the meantime, I see suffering in people who just don't know how to speak to a 4'9" woman, which makes no sense whatsoever. but I am confident, God. So I did learn how teenagers don't like confident people. So when you love with integrity, and that means you tell people the truth all the time, not just sometimes, and all you want is a hug. As a 3-year-old, I have a twin, Robert Sapolsky. So sciences can share with us why those first 3 years of your life are important. And you say, I find it hard to believe. Well, then you're part of that group of people who, bye. See you later, alligator. Have fun doing shit on Pinocchio's island, because seriously, that's the only thing I can tell you is when you meet people who ignore that they are not internally securely attached, they are ignoring how they treat other human beings, number one. They're also ignoring how they feel inside, number two. Number three, they're believing stories in the absence of noticing I'm using my thoughts and creating shit from my own mouth, which might make me want to self-reflect for a second, become self-aware, maybe not of myself immediately, but wait a minute, what did I learn at home in my first 8 years of life? And then from my 8 to, so this is the part of when I'm meeting teenagers, I knew what the grown-ups had taught us in catechism, and that's why I said, hey, heart, you can stay open. They don't know what love is. They don't know what kindness is. They're not choosing to go to catechism and do Christian Catholic upbringing, but it's not the Christian Catholic upbringing. Because see, today, those of us who are mystics and Christian Catholics and Christian anything are being talked about very not well by those who decided to go and make a paper, the theologians on Reiki, and call it bad energy just because they don't like that there's healers and or whatever words you want to use. People of faith is what I like to say, and spiritual. So let's just allow ourselves to remember that 3D, 4D won't want to mix and mingle with us because they just keep using Lucifer's name. They also keep on having the same not securely attached people who don't reparent themselves with a good child therapist, child abuse therapist, okay? So Patrick Tiahan, as he points out consistently, you can't bring your inner child back to life and not reparent. And as he also points out, people who have a child abuse story, they date people who treat them like shit. They actively end up following people who don't bring them much because they're also used to being treated a certain way. So their gut, as Gabor Mate will point out, is a bad gut. It's not all guts that are bad. And when people don't take seriously healing, they think that everyone has to be traumatized when they see a quote from Pat Ogden, for example, that says there's non-traumatized people. I know my body like the back of my hand, and I know how to spot securely attached people. Therefore, I can tell you all it's amazing because empowered feminines are out there, and there are plenty that as adolescents, because that's when our social system comes online. Okay, so your first 8 years, you're codependent on your parents and on your sibling, whatever. That's your first, okay? So God or no God, you're going to have that. Terry Real points out, you marry your unfinished business if you don't learn to love yourself first, which is why Patrick Tiahan and Terry Real are first stop to anyone who doesn't know unconditional love yourself first and integrity. Number two is what I'm sharing with you all, again, on this blind faith souls who don't play God, we love, and we are unbreakable, unshakable, and unfoolable because, again, mystic or not, you ain't fooling no 3-year-old who got taught, hey, when those grown-ups do this shit, and my mom doesn't curse, no, they have no integrity. God made me aware of, remember, Maria, you don't know everything, and be humble, no casting stones, and follow Jesus, which meant forgive and still means forgive. So the ones who say, oh, how dare they teach about this good God? Really? I see. So you want to make God out to be evil. Or you want to just keep on twisting the words from a book and continuing to use the facade. So the reason people follow those people is because they have shame, blame, fault, revenge. They're broken like the same human beings who use their mouth. That's why they're in the 7 and 14 charming. But they're charming to those who are non-bilaterally integrated fools who make fun of Patrick Tiahan or actively go and say, nah, neuroscience, everybody needs something to believe in. I don't believe in the neuroscience, neurobiology, or any of that mental health. So, wow. Okay, again, are you a flat earther by any chance? Because really, you should go join them. And no, you can't tell that to people. I mean, actually, I choose not to because I really don't want to waste my time with anybody who just told me that they don't believe in scientists or that they are basically taking everything that can come out of pseudoscience lady who doesn't know how to always put it all together or use the right words, but I know who I'm learning from. Okay, so at the end of the day, blind faith, I did have it, I still have it, and I really get sad when I think of the fact that I was raised right with the right people. And it made me sad when I got clairs because I knew I'm a mystic. I'm not anointed. That's so egoic. And it's from a past time and it's disrespectful to my ancestors. And then I found out that clairs are the same as spiritual gifts and that scientists look into it and they're looking into it. And the spiritual people are threatened by scientists knowing about the quantum plane, the Akash plane, whatever. I mean, really, how do you get threatened? If you are a person of faith, there's no threat. This is the part that I consistently have been humored by is when I'm meeting anybody who wants to talk about spirituality and I notice that they don't already know here who wins, who triumphs. You're not really understanding of what that blind faith is. And I'm going to give you Sadhguru because he talks about the expert yogis in darkness, which is very different from obviously when you're being brought up with blind faith, Holy Spirit, which is why I shared the part about a person who spoke these words. It was that's why it made me think of doing a conversation, and actually as today is 112 with our 12 making a 3, and that 1 being one God, Trinity. So in honor, I said, you know what, since we got that full moon coming out too, I know that these messages, they are going to get to those people, those of you who are here still listening. Where is it? Give me 1 second and I'm sure I'll find it right here. But see, this person isn't from the faith community of Jesus. They're from a different spirituality community, which is why I'm going to bring you both. So one with sciences, all I'm going to say is a non-traumatized, meaning a person who can use bilateral vertical overall integration and has a self-empowered inner child. You're not hypervigilant. Okay, that's why we love with integrity, and that's why you can't break and you can't fool, because discernment is consistently on. But we also have a good time, which is why we don't judge. We don't get charged because we don't give a shit about trying. We don't get angry because I'm not going to try to correct what's coming out of your mouth. I actively know how to respect a differentiated self. That's why a 3-year-old differentiated self who got taught how to share the floor, how to respect grown-ups and children. Thanks, Mom. And everybody, but my mom gave me the directives, and I'm the one who heard them, and my brain is the one who thought through, okay, these teenagers don't know what the fuck they're doing. I didn't curse at the time, but I do. I got taught well. I'm gonna stand, and that's it. It was very easy to maintain an open heart and an open mind and not say they're all Lucifers, because that's bullshit. None of them were, and none of them still are. And today, when I hear anybody using energy vampires, dark auras, and talking to you about spiritual boundaries, and they want to say that they're a healer, yeah, what healer? You think energy is negative. Where'd you go with your brain? You obviously are taking a story. This is where you're going to spot them, because that's what every non-bilaterally, insecurely attached human being, facade people, like my facade friend, they don't hear their words. They lack self-awareness, accountability, regulation, and then they're inconsistent because they lack inconsistency from their own nervous system, which is consistently not in a bilateral integration. No, the left mode leads and the right mode only comes up with their child parts. It's called structural dissociation, which is why as they grow up, like my facade friend, I'm like, you're a hypocrite. You don't walk a walk or talk a talk. You don't do what you say. You're never consistent. No. And he says, you're a hypocrite to me because I'm a person who brings a lot of different concepts, and today I'll say this and tomorrow I'll say that. And I'm like, yep, that is true, but I don't feel a hypocrite because I walk a straight line as a person. And that's where people use words differently. So when you understand what it is to have a subjective way of interpreting, you don't bother with, let's compare perception and reality. Anybody who's using that stuff, I mean, it's like wanting to create new dictionaries. I just saw someone, and so they have these types of conversations which are so minimal. They're so superficial and small compared to what I get to chit chat with you all here, because they're picking at words. In fact, when I saw this other person who's doing, there's no free will or self, so that's an illusion. I'm like, well, not really. I'm not an illusion. And you using illusion and self makes it like I'm disappearing. And that's a person who doesn't have the neuroscience, neurobiology, and the capacity to know ourself is a verb when it's whole. In fact, they're interpreting to you all of spiritual stuff from the Buddhism spirituality group who consistently say you have no self, which is why you'll find somebody say, my neuroscientist colleagues are wrong. There is no self. In the meantime, Patrick McNamara found where the self could be allocated, because I watched him being interviewed and he's a neuroscientist. I'm like, you know what? That makes sense with how the brain works. So when you understand that a self is here, use your human name, please. Like with the ego is my friend. My ego doesn't have an issue because I don't have an issue with myself. And then when my emotions, I have a chit chat because again, I got to be taught how it's okay to be emotional. Let me read. So, where is this? Here you are. It takes a second to break a soul. No, no, it doesn't. But I understand what he means because he's talking about the soul, which is to me, who I'm going to bring it the same as the self. It takes a second, to break an inner child and to make them feel defective that first year of life. They don't get a third attunement and repairing ruptures. Then their first 3 years of life, they don't get attunement and repairing ruptures. It's not about being a perfect parent. It's repairing ruptures. I yell at you, I come, and I explain to you why I yelled at you. That way you don't go Ray like that with a feeling here. So when you learn from smart human beings, that's why soul, self, you can use them both. A person who doesn't like that, excuse me, you're confusing shit as a non-bilaterally integrated brain. I have no interest. IHP is for smart brains. And really it's for people who love, like Jesus taught me. 5D, Christ consciousness. I actually honor Jesus' words. Forgive, for they don't know. And Stephen Porges confirms it. Yes, biologically rude people don't know. And Dr. Daniel Fox confirms personality disorders are healable, like Dr. Daniel Siegel, Basil Vanderkolk, and a bunch of other people. And anytime I'm hearing any of those mystics talk to you about boundaries, I just think of when Sadhguru is talking to this human being who basically is making it seem like she's really scared of being a Reiki practitioner. And he's, at a certain point, he says, don't do it. And it's taken out of context. The person who chooses to share the video completely changes the wording of what Sadhguru is doing because he wasn't saying don't do Reiki. The woman was clearly afraid of getting the bad energy of people. That's how she was wording it. I'm like, what kind of a Reiki practitioner are you? But then I remembered my teachings and the people around me and all these people who talk to you about energy boundaries. And what I can tell you about the 4D body type is what I call them is that they ignore going to get their inner child empowered. And so they walk around hypervigilant and they are not open to their body's state of safety and to connection. No, they don't trust people because their inner child doesn't trust their own home because they didn't get the safe environment that could lead them to having the first 3 years of their life with a sense of safety to connect with other human beings in home and be good with being yourself and knowing how to self-regulate in your ventral vagal state, which instead my body knows all about. So you don't break a child that knows safety of being a child as he or they is growing up. And it's not a competition. So I just chose to share something that is not only personal, it's not mostly personal, integrating pieces of data, pieces of information from other people and letting you all know, blind faith souls who don't play God, we love, and are unbreakable, unshakable, unfoolable. You can keep talking to me. The reason a 3-year-old will piss the fuck out of anyone who keeps talking to me, which they don't. I exclude myself from a lot of interactions on purpose. And really because I'm a busy person, and so I only have my smart people around me. Like I have been told I'm selective. No, they say I'm picky. I say no. And then they say selective. And I say, yep, am I supposed to want to hang out with stupid people? No, I don't say that, but they know what I am, which is why they like to point out a lot of other things I'm not going to point out right now. So inner self, securely attached mystics and mindfully living and loving people, we know wholeness and true love, which is what we're going to talk about, which is why empowered feminines know there is no one who is divinely guided to us. No, true love requires integrity. So any masculine, very disappointing, might I add. I've told you all about this. I really wish it were different. But when people lack inner security, they don't know how to speak. Like I learned from my teenage boyfriend, all my teenage friends, and from my facade friend. And I kept on learning from all these other people who don't have integrity because they don't have unconditional love for who they are with flaws and imperfections. And when someone says, if you don't compare, again, here's why the spirituality from the other groups gets lost. It's not about comparing myself with insecurity. I'm comparing as a solo self that has a connection beyond myself because I live true spirituality, which means I will apologize to the sensitive egos. I will not hang out with them. I will apologize to those human beings who don't know how to use their entirety of their brain. I will play nice with him. I'm decent enough to be saluted because my mother taught me how. Oh, did you tell him you didn't like him in his face? That's not nice. No, Mom, no. I did if you can't say something, I didn't interact at all. And God taught me also, brother, sister, don't treat them like little pieces of shit. So there you go. You get to stay a person who has integrity. Also, I'm 4'9". So if I wanted to put all my faith to the side, I can bring on in Robert Sapolsky, determined, and every single one of those neuroscientists, neurobiologists, and what they like to do is objectify us and say that we're belittle program. You know what? My optimized system is a 4'9" body. Who knows? I stand no chance in front of a man or a woman, and it will pull me back. So I'm okay with science is explaining why I know how I work, which is physical safety first. If you don't respect my boundaries, I'm out and you're not going to be a friend of mine. And that's about it. And though you don't change the mind of the person who says, nope, I'm a scaredy cat and you don't respect that. And it's okay that you tease me, but when you're teasing me, so here's where loved ones tease us, all of us, right? But they tease means the joke is a joke, not when it goes overboard. And so what I'm saying is I don't have people that I don't feel physically safe around. And when I was a kid, out. Okay, you're all in. So, long story short, though, you don't break and be like, every person is evil, Knievel medieval, because they don't respect me. And that's where it's just like a lot of people out there doing a lot of this stuff. But again, we'll be back with more since our topic today is integrity, true love, and real partnership. It comes with whole inner, securely attached self, people, and mystics. And so that's what's next. But again, I want to take some time to share food for thought and to let you know that those of us who have blind faith, the souls, we don't play God, one, mystics and not. We understand that we're not welcomed by all. We're really sad about it. I know I am. I love Jesus to this day, my catechism, churches, and it makes me sad every time I meet somebody who looks at me and like, oh my God, I had a terrifying experience. And I'm like, I can't say anything because they protect people who are hurting children, and then they actually continue to treat people and have their people treat people that are Reiki practitioners. Like, I mean, really, who knows? If I went to certain places, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be physically safe. But I won't be going around like the 40 does. Yeah, witch hunts. No, there are no witch hunts. Just, make sure you're with people that will have your back in case anybody else, I saw you on internet. Oh, shit, because obviously being on internet, that could happen. We always hope not. I live in countries where I think I'm okay. So, and I won't be going anywhere that I don't think I'd be okay. And I'm not joking right now. We still have so many individuals who don't believe in neuroscience. And I'm not kidding right now. And there's a lot of, it's not just YouTube. So, present moment living, spiritual wisdom, law of attraction and love. We're also going to potentially talk about that. And please remember that thanks to mindfulness and mindset and the spiritual living and loving people and practices that we get to do, you get to find inner stillness, because that's the healthy self-regulation and self-soothing of an inner securely attached whole self, or someone who's also working on it. So inner stillness comes because you're working with your ventral energy, and that's because you're welcoming the comfort in connection. And you're saying, no, I don't want that lady with the protection shit. Go. I'll learn how to manage when it comes up, but I want my inner stillness. So you raise your frequency, and you do that in the comfort of your time, because obviously everybody's different. And you ground yourself anchored in ventral. That's also why we don't have bad experiences when the big ascension energies hit. So we don't have a bad experience with decentralization of the self, which is something Patrick McNamara explains, and so does the esoteric lady, but they don't explain it to you the way that I did in a couple days ago. So you can tune on in, or yesterday maybe. That one is supportive for anybody of you who are curious. And like I said, and we'll keep saying, mental health is your number one priority. So if you have a challenge with thoughts and emotions like that, Zen master, yes, laundry. Therapists are still the best bet, because that way you can get a window welcome. Once you have a window welcome and you acknowledge your window of tolerance, now you're ready to do mindfulness, mindset, and mindset stuff. Because again, the trauma memory, there's 4 different types of memory. The nervous system will have learned the first years of your life, very first. And if you don't know your attachment category, you might want to get that one. There's an adult attachment interview. But anyways, you'll know people, I can spot people who completely, again, disregard going. And as Bezo Vanderkolk pointed out, you can heal. It's being shown that you can. It might take 20 years, but that's the part with the right people. So the trauma can affect window of tolerance, hyperarousal, hypoarousal, and you want to stay within, let me see, we're going to expand. We'll talk about this next, but the window of tolerance means that you're grounded in your body. So I'll just use panic attacks never got me into a state of where I was not able to continue conducting whatever activity I was doing. Now, there is some studies that share DNA might be, or genes, why I can feel deeply, and so I have a bigger window of tolerance to emotions. And that's why Robert Sapolsky in All Sciences can share with us why some people have a challenge. And while some people say, well, what about, okay, the spiritual part and the bad, good people? Okay, so if you're still into good and evil like that, you really don't want to be here at IHP, because again, you're casting a stone, and you didn't hear the part about you don't judge and you're not playing God, right? Okay, so if you're judging, you're playing God. If you understand that you're not God and God has everything handled, understand, but also understand is from here, again, no fear, because blind faith is that. And also it's accepting fate, meaning that if, let's say, the asteroid hits us, blind faith means I accept, even if I don't want to. This is the difference with faith versus, so for the expert yogis, the way Sadhguru talks about it is you are married to darkness, which is the unknown. It's uncertainty, which in the maximum uncertainty comes when you're in a state of awareness. Thank you, Dr. Daniel Siegel. 3 pillars of the mind, which create integration of the brain, focus, attention, awareness, kind, intention. Very easy for a person who got taught by Jesus how to forgive, by God how to love, by mother how to respect. There you go. And has introception, because I have a good relationship with my body and emotions. So it's all explainable to why you don't break a soul, a child who had the first 0 to 8 years of their life in a child-centric environment. And then by the time you're 8 and 11, adolescent brain, the essence, essential spark, social engagement, novelty, creative expression, and my social system, which is where I'm going to pick my next style of parenting. And I'm picky. And I picked them based on meeting the first batch of cowards and people who didn't know how to be actual friends to then knowing, okay, these friends are awesome, but they all lie and don't have integrity, but they're insecure. We're growing up, and then growing up some more and finding out, wow, so integrity, you can keep it if you keep a securely attached inner child. There you go. And if you don't, well, then you got the facade people like my facade friend, which is why now I don't love him any less than any other person who's a facade. Because it's not my business if they don't want to get inner securely attached with their 0 to 1 year old, their 3 to 7 year old, their freeze of all ages, their 11, 12, flight, and their fight 14, 15, 16. That's their job to notice their child parts, not mine to go and tell them, because I'm not their therapist and I'm not their mama and I'm nobody. That no-thingness. So darkness, secondary human consciousness, bilateral vertical, all over integration. You don't break a whole 3-year-old because we're stubborn. I got a plaque. It's called bossy. There's a reason for it. But again, we're also able to love with integrity and know, we don't play anything. So you don't judge, you don't cast a stone, but you do discern. And it's, you're out, but without pointing or saying anything, because that's bad manners. And that's why I'm not using enough to be saluted. It was 3 consistent years of not speaking to him. And I continued to reiterate, which is why he didn't do anything except for basically tell me what he thought finally, and then got the, the satisfaction at a certain point to say, well, at least you looked at me, which I was happy about, because now he feels vindicated. See? So he can go scurry off and say, I taught her a lesson, and why does it make me happy? Because I don't need to teach him a lesson. He needs a good therapist, not me. And I consistently set my healthy boundaries without doing anything except, if you can't say something nice, say nothing. And I looked at him because he made me very well aware of how undecent he felt. And so that's just, I had to, actually, because he was near a friend of mine. That friend of mine, you all know his story too. Oh my gosh, my friend, I love that. Okay, we're going to be back with more. So thank you for stopping by. Have a good one.